of the show here. I have some predictions, and I want to bounce them off of you. First off, I think we will see boots on the ground. I'm not saying it's going to be a Normandy invasion. There's not going to be a big D-Day. It's not going to be millions of boots on the ground for the next 25 years, but I don't see how we functionally pull off some of this without at least a limited strike force, like maybe occupying just a little Karg Island. I'm under the impression, and you probably are too, given the recent sound bites we've been playing on WBAP, that the uranium program's probably underneath some big granite mountain. So if we have to send a crew in to go get that, or I don't know, I just feel like the part of the frustration that you're hearing with Donald Trump is the fact that he didn't want to have to do boots on the ground, and now he knows he's going to have to. And so this is sort of the softening up, foreshadowing to that, and this could go a lot easier. But you and I didn't have much hope that Iran was going to be great, honest negotiators to begin with. So I think we're going to hear a whole lot of this. This was from yesterday, Trump dunking on Iran.
But it's too bad the press couldn't have seen what we were doing in that room, because it was very smart people, and they have a lot of good in their heart, not evil, good. And they're doing a great job for their country. The world is doing well. We have, as you know, the oil is down. We'll see whether or not we keep it down. We should keep it down. We're doing things that should have been done 47 years ago with Iran.
And so then he updated you late last night, and it looks like he did some more strikes on Karg Island. And the way he brings this up, where he brings it up when no one asks him about Karg Island, he just inserts it. That means it's already in his brain. That means it's already part of some strategic plan. So you know we're at least going to hit Karg Island more. I have a feeling that if we do boots on the ground, you will first see them on what just sounds like a magical port island right out in the Persian Gulf. But when he talks about how hard he hits Karg and how we're probably just going to have to take it, I believe him.
President Trump, what is the effectiveness of last night's attack? What message does that send to what's left of the Iranian
Which attack are you talking about?
The attack that you guys had on Iran last night. The strikes last night?
Oh, I think it has a tremendous impact. Well, first of all, we took out additional, they were trying to rebuild their radar, and they had about 60% built. Now they have to start all over again. Look, we're not attacking at the highest level. The highest level of the bridges, which we can knock down. I would say in one day we knock down every single bridge in Iran. There's not a thing they can do about it. Their electric manufacturing facilities, right? Their electric plants where they make their electricity there. We will, if we have to, we'll take them out. I don't want to do that, but if we have to, we'll take them out. They have desalinization plants. We'll take them out if we have to. I hate to do that. That's probably the one I would like not to do least. We attacked Karg Island last night. We knocked out a piece. I said, don't touch the oil, because maybe we'll take over Karg Island. We may take over Karg Island. There's not a thing they can do about it. But I said, don't hit the pipes. Just hit everything else. And they hit it. They may hit it again tonight. So, as for your question, normally I'm not that way, but they really deserve it.
And it's interesting to hear a president speak off the cuff, not on the teleprompter, not with some prepared statements, not with some bullet points. Just you heard him just kind of noodling through his thoughts there. We actually have a pretty good handle on the situation and where he's at. Now, for a more detail-oriented report, Mike Tobin did a live report from Tel Aviv on Fox News this morning. I think this was about 10 o'clock your time. But here is just like an antiseptic list of details of the strikes that happened over the last 2 nights. And, what you're missing here is they put up a map, and where all these little flashpoints are almost exclusively along the Gulf, the coast, the southern coast of Iran in the Persian Gulf. There wasn't a whole lot of things blowing up hundreds of miles inland. But other than that, beautiful set of details that'll set us up for my next guest. Colonel Grant Newsham is coming on. We have retired military expertise going to explain some of the X's and O's, and I'll ask him, is there any way we get out of this without boots on the ground? But check out this list of details from Mike Tobin live this morning.
And Sandra, Iran has been firing at its neighbors. For the first time in this round of fighting, hostile aircraft have entered Jordanian airspace. The Jordanians say they shot down some 8 missiles. U.S. Embassy staff there was ordered to shelter in place. No injuries. The U.S. hit multiple targets, including bridges on rail lines that the U.S. says were used by Iran to transport weapons. Those were hit. U.S. Central Command says some 90 different targets were taken out in Iran last night. 80 were hit the night before. Now, Iranian state media reported explosions in southern port cities. Explosions in Bashir, home to that massive nuclear power plant complex. The U.S. says the targets were on the coast. The power plant was not hit. We've got video of explosions in the port city Khabakar. Iranian counterstrikes went into Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain. Kuwait says they shot down 3 ballistic missiles, a cruise missile, and 10 drones. The Kuwaitis also say 1 person was hit by debris. President Trump says the Iranians have been calling him and want to make a deal.
We've already won militarily. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
Yeah, so you hear that there 900 or 90 strikes, and there were 15 naval bases, it's 28 missile silos, and also they rocked 1 Casbah. Oh, see what I did there? Garrett, are you even old enough to get that song? I hope so. All right, coming up next, we have a retired colonel. No, not that one. The Rock the Casbah song. Do you know Rock the Casbah? All right. Sorry, young people. I made an old man joke. All right. Colonel Grant Newsom's coming on to talk about the X's and O's. And the big question is there any way we get out of this without putting boots on the ground in Iran? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Do you think there's going to be boots on the ground? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I don't want there to be. I'm not hoping there will be. But I think part of the frustration you're hearing out of your president this week and the breaking off of the ceasefire is the fact that he now knows that negotiations are not going to do it. Words are not going to get it done. Sanctions aren't going to get it done. And I guess the next step would be boots on the ground. My next guest coming back on, Colonel Grant Newsham. Thank you very much for being on the James Show for about the 1,000th time since this war's broken out. But I think a lot of people are just kind of resigning to the fact that, well, you can. It's probably not going to be big, but you can expect some boots to be on the ground. Am I too much of a cynic? Okay, so I think the bare minimum would be we occupy Karg Island, and once you do that, you control 80% of their economy. You don't need to occupy anything other than that island. What do you think about that? Just minimalist scenario. Well, do you expect this to drag out for a long time? Because I think most people are putting money on this is going to be solved well before the midterm elections. Right. All right, we're talking with retired Marine Colonel Grant Newsham, who's now with Center for Security Policy. I was digging through your X feed, and you tend to have a lot of info on the Japanese military situation. Is that part of your job description, or is there something going on that the rest of us need to know? You speak Japanese? I hear you. What could possibly go wrong? That was a Pearl Harbor joke. Go ahead. All right, well, good stuff. That's Colonel Grant Newsham. You can find him online. He's a good follow on the X feed at Newsham Grant. Thank you, sir. All right, coming up next, I have some local news on Mark Cuban and the Mavs, and also the Dallas Libraries. They're going to be closed for one magical day. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, got a couple of local news updates for you on the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM. WBAP. Number one is this situation where Mark Cuban and the Mavs. Mark Cuban came in, bought the Mavs, was running the Mavs, and then he kind of split ownership here with the Adelson family, and then they have some other folks that are coming in to actually running the basketball operations. But Mark Cuban did a lawsuit that I think this means he was under the impression that he was still going to be in charge, or at least in charge of basketball operations. And I think this has to do with the relocation effort. So you figure if he was going to drop the hammer, it would have been after the Luka trade. But this is actually kind of a big deal, too. WFAA had the report this morning.
Mavericks are also making their move out of downtown Dallas, eyeing the old Valley View Mall site for a future home. And this morning, team minority shareholder Mark Cuban is taking the current majority ownership to court over the relocation efforts. The filing includes claims from Cuban that Mavs governor Patrick Dumont didn't honor a handshake deal for Cuban to continue to run basketball operations after he sold his majority stake in the team in 2023. We reached out to the Mavs, who said because this is a legal matter, they won't comment.
Now, that's interesting. I don't know the best place to build a stadium. I've never built a stadium. You've never built a stadium. Hell, I've never even built a house. But I trust that Mark Cuban probably knows about building stadiums. I bet the Adelson family probably has a good idea about billion-dollar investments, seeing as how they've already done this several times. You know, built new casinos and giant construction projects in a very important part of Las Vegas. So whatever they work out, fine. I would rather them work it out than the city council. I would rather them say, well, are we going to get a better shake out of Valley View, this site, or maybe we got to go to Irving where the old Texas Stadium was. It's just as long as they don't tear down the city hall and try and build one down there. That's terrible. Another local story here. This is kind of Texas-wide. The lady that's running against current Governor Greg Abbott as the Democrat candidate, Hinojosa, is going to try and take some of your money and give it back to you in exchange for voting for her.
We're about 4 months out from Election Day. Governor Abbott and challenger Gina Hinojosa just unveiled their economic agendas, and one of the Democrats' campaign promises is turning heads. Hinojosa wants to use money from the state's rainy day fund to give each household in Texas $1,500. She says the one-time rebate will help families deal with higher costs, but the Republican-controlled state legislature would have to approve that plan. Governor Abbott hasn't responded to her proposal, but his economic agenda is focused on using these surpluses to expand property tax relief.
Yeah, that's kind of bribing you with your own money to vote for her. Pretty shallow. I don't think she's going to win, but we'll see. The other local story, this caught my attention, and if you're familiar with the show, you know I hate the libraries and I want them all to go away because they're not even about books. Now they're all political. Now they're being used as cooling centers. Cooling centers. So I thought we were taking money from all of us and making these libraries happen, and we have to have 30 different locations for them just so we can have, just so little kiddos can have, poor indigent kiddos can have access to books. No, it's so homeless people have a comfortable place to stay when it's really hot. We just have to make everything as comfortable as possible for homeless and the bums at your expense.
Of course, we are in the thick of summer, and this week there will be fewer places to cool down in the city of Dallas. Mitty Hicks explains why.
Thursday and Friday are expected to be among the hottest days this week. These 100-degree temperatures come at the worst time for residents who find relief inside public places like libraries. Dallas city leaders announced public libraries will be closed Friday for a mandatory shutdown as the city tries to make up for a budget deficit.
We serve anybody that comes to our doors.
So places like the Salvation Army are stepping up to make sure people are hydrated and staying cool.
We do have 13 hydration and cooling stations throughout North Texas. We're in 5 counties at this point.
Staff say volunteers are serving more people this year compared to last year due to rising gas, food, and energy costs.
Yeah, shut it down. You know what? Just shut all the libraries down. I am tired of this. We had the report last week where they just spent $125 million building the most expensive and opulent library in all of Texas, and now it's just full of homeless people who are going in there because it's free air conditioning. Can we stop accommodating these people? Like, why do we have such a homeless problem in Dallas, but not all the other cities? Oh, I don't know. We're the only ones that don't put them in jail. We're the only ones that let them pitch tents and camp out in public areas. We're the only ones that let them have an almost permanent little village here under the Stemmons Bridge over on the other side of the DART station here. Gee, I don't know why. Coming up next, Kara Mendelson, a Dallas city councilman, is going to call in and talk about some of the scandals and goofy things that are going on there. And there is no shortage going on there. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, we're being joined by City Councilwoman Kara Mendelson. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Don't forget about the WBAP morning show. First off, welcome back, Kara. Thanks again for coming to our awesome party that we had last Wednesday. So, how's City Hall going? Have we torn it down yet? All right. Well, let's talk about the new candidates here to run DART. Is there any way I can get my name into the pool for new? What's the title? Is it DART President, DART CEO, DART something or other? Do you think this is something that's already a foregone conclusion, and we're just doing this for formalities? So the public meeting that's happening tomorrow, is there going to be public comments as part of that meeting? Well, I saw in the news, Kara Mendelson, that the Dallas public libraries are all going to be closed. Is that tomorrow for the furloughs? Can we just get rid of the public library system? Yeah, and look, I don't want to beat you up here. It's just my next question is always: has there been a less efficient way discovered possible to get books in the hands of poor people? No. No. Well, listen, I grew up way out in the country, so the nearest library for me was like 40 minutes away, and I grew up just fine without having government sponsored story time. And we did have story time, but it was usually through like community centers, like a church or something else that didn't require taxpayer coerced funds. But don't worry, no, you don't have to sign on with all of my goofy limited government stuff. Wait, y'all didn't have libraries at your school? Well, then let's do that. Let's open up the school libraries for evenings and weekends, and we'll close down the public libraries. All right, I'm convinced. Let's shut down public schools too, then. All right, we're talking with Kara Mendelson, who's not signing on to any of my libertarian fantasy world here. But the furloughs are serious. When you take the median salary of the workers who are going to have to take 3 days off, this is pretty much like taking $1,000 from each one of these 4,000 families. like librarians and things like that.
Always see this.
Okay. I'm just having fun with you. All right. Kara Mendelson, thank you very much. You're my favorite person in city council because you're the only one that'll call into my show. I think 6 of them are scared. The other 3, that'd be fine. Well, not to you. Look. Well, anyone who wants to tear down City Hall and can't give me a better reason than we can't afford it, they're going to have a hard time on my show. Thank you very much. Well, and Kara, that's the only thing that matters. It's paid for. And I don't care if you think it's pretty or if you think it's as ugly as Garrett's backside. It's paid for. We don't need to tear it down. And I'm kind of out of time here, Kara, so I got to run. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we finally reached 100 degrees here in North Texas. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, buddy. Good to see you, too. Yeah, and one thing I say this almost every year, because I'm born and raised here, from here. When people go, wow, this sure is hot. I'm like, yeah, you could say it's hot, or you could say it's July in Texas. So it's not really, what did you expect? 72 degrees outside? But as much sympathy as I have for my fellow Texans when it comes to the heat, I do not like this idea of using our libraries as cooling centers. Now, WFAA actually did a great report on this because they started out with the public sector option. Oh, there's poor people and they don't have access to air conditioning. How can we help them out? Well, you'll send them to the libraries. It's funded by your tax money taken from you by force and try and cool them off. But since Dallas libraries are going to be closed tomorrow for furloughs, WFAA did a glorious thing, and they gave you the private sector option, which just warms my little free market capitalist heart so much. Because when people say, well, what are poor people supposed to do? Well, if they need some cooling, they could get their own damn air conditioner, number one. That's my first recommendation. Now, if you can't afford it, then maybe you could go to someone in your family, a brother, a sister, a mom, a kid, a dad. If that's not it, what about your extended family? Okay, what about your church family? What about your community? What about private sector charities where it's private volunteers and private voluntary donations that are funding it? There's 18 other ways to attack this before we get to the forced coercion of socialist solutions. And so I just want to give this lady from WFAA a hug for going from the Dallas Library straight to the people who deserve the credit for doing the right thing and not by force, voluntarily, the Salvation Army.
Of course, we are in the thick of summer, and this week there will be fewer places to cool down in the city of Dallas. Mitty Hicks explains why.
Thursday and Friday are expected to be among the hottest days this week. These 100-degree temperatures come at the worst time for residents who find relief inside public places like libraries. Dallas city leaders announced public libraries will be closed Friday for a mandatory shutdown as the city tries to make up for a budget deficit.
We serve anybody that comes to our doors.
So places like the Salvation Army are stepping up to make sure people are hydrated and staying cool.
We do have 13 hydration and cooling stations throughout North Texas. We're in 5 counties at this point.
Staff say volunteers are serving more people this year compared to last year due to rising gas, food, and energy costs.
Great report. Great report. See, don't you like it when they get it right? You got to give them credit when they get it right. Ed in Mansfield, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
James,
Ed.
I know your faith is very important to you. If Jesus were walking through our city today, how do you think he would treat people living on the streets?
See, this is a common misconception. Ed, anywhere in the Bible did Jesus, let me give you an example, like the Good Samaritan, right? There was the guy who was beaten up. He was on the side of the street. He had been robbed. He needed health care. Did Jesus say, hang on, let me go lobby some politicians to pass a law to force him to buy health insurance? Or did he, through private voluntary donations, private voluntary time and resources, help the guy? He always helped them through the private sector. When there was the sermon outside of Capernaum and he had to do the divvying up the loaves and the fishes, did he say, oh, there's 5,000 hungry people here, let me go lobby my politicians to pass the social program, or we'll go ask the Romans to give us all a grain subsidy? Or did he rely on the private voluntary donations of the Christians around him?
Those parallels...
I got you, dude. You don't have a comeback for that. It's a flawless one. It works every time it's tried.
You're not letting me finish.
No, go ahead. Dude. Fine, go ahead.
Yeah, those parallels are false. They just don't go, because you don't have an answer, and you offer BS. You gonna hang up on me, James?
No, I'm here. I'm just waiting. Go ahead. Explain how I'm wrong.
That was it.
Oh, so your comeback to that is it's just BS?
No. The parallels that you make do not apply.
I think they do. Ed, do you have one example in the Bible where Jesus demanded government intervention in a charitable situation?
They didn't have a government the way we define it today. That's why the parallel is.
They didn't have the Romans?
Let me ask you something else.
Hey, Ed, hang on. At the time, Romans had grain subsidies. They had food stamps. They had social programs. You know that.
Okay, well, my question is one of virtue, not goods to be handed out. I'm asking you your opinion. What do you think Jesus would do to people living on the streets?
I think he would want the people of North Texas to go through Christian charities, just like was described in the WFAA report. Go, if you don't have a whole lot of time or money, volunteer what you can to the local Salvation Army. They have 13 different hydrating and cooling stations that are open through North Texas. That way we can help people without the forced contributions, without the confiscation, the theft of resources via government from our neighbors. I think that's a more noble, virtuous way to help the least among us.
I like that. I think that's a great start. Of course, we would need more people in the Salvation Army, and there you go again with logistics.
Who says we need more?
Oh, when you just, I'm going to use your number. You said thousands of people, homeless, who are going to, volunteer their services to the homeless, to the Salvation Army. Well, somebody needs to coordinate all of that.
It's already coordinated.
Accommodate all of that. I know, but with the numbers that we have now, it would not suffice.
Who says?
To accommodate the thousands of homeless people that you're citing.
Yeah, Ed, you're just saying these things. So, and you're saying that
Yes,
because you still want to leave room for a government program because you think there's a gap to fill in that the Salvation Army and private Christian charity doesn't cover. Is that what you're saying?
James, I'd never mentioned.
Okay, then you're okay with us you're okay.
Let me ask you, what do you think Jesus would do?
And I just said the private voluntary donations. He would we know what he would do. He would volunteer his time. He would ask people to volunteer their time and resources. He wouldn't use the government to go take it from people at the point of a gun or point of a sword in Roman times and then use that money through programs to help people. He would ask only for private voluntary donations. His record is 100% on that.
We know two different Jesuses then.
See, you can say that, but Ed, you still don't have one example of Jesus preferring to help poor people through a government program rather than private voluntary donations.
I do not. No, you're absolutely
right. So I'm right and you're wrong, and that's okay. That's why you call the James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Uh-oh. Phones are lighting up. I think I might get ripped in the next segment. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. No, public libraries shouldn't be used as cooling centers. We shouldn't be involved in charity through the tax system anyway. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for the WBAP morning show. And I've been getting a little bit of grief here because I don't like the idea of the Dallas libraries being used as cooling centers. We are not here to just come up with different programs, all for the benefit of homeless people. You know, if we're going to be inviting all the homeless people into the libraries every time it gets 100 degrees, you cool with sending your kids there? No one has a problem overlapping there. And it's not that I hate poor people or I want them to suffer or I delight in their discomfort. Can we do it through private voluntary donations? And that's all I'm asking. And then I had a guy call in, and you probably hear this a lot and see it a lot online. It's like, what would Jesus do? Well, let me guess. The guy who hates Jesus and all other facets, he wants the 10 Commandments off the wall. He freaks out that the Bible is going to be included in curriculum, is now waving them in front of your face and telling you Jesus would vote for James Tallarico or something. Get out of here with that. To the phones we go. Evan in Frisco. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James. Thanks for taking my call. I agree with everything you've been saying, and people like that guy that called in, it drives me nuts too. And I've got a question for people that routinely say, what would Jesus do? When is the last time they've gone down to a shelter and a stranger to feed and clothe for a day or two? Because that's what they routinely did in biblical times. It was a duty.
Yeah, and so I mean, that makes it a legitimate point, kind of. But even if the guy never went to a shelter once in his life, he would still be right when he said Jesus did not want us to do it through government programs. Or there's no evidence that Jesus once ever recommended a government program for charitable purposes. So I'm right. I think in their heart they're projecting the fact that they don't do that, and they have never done that. And the fact that you heard him say, "Well, if we don't have the government do it, there's not enough people to fill in the void." Are you kidding? You know, he hasn't been around those circles, and they have, and we see it in the studies whenever they do the studies of like who gives more to charity. It's Christian conservatives. They give more as a percentage of their income to charity than liberals, and they also donate more of their free time to charitable causes than liberals. And so I think when liberals say that, they're projecting, because they're not doing it. They didn't drop $300 in the offering plate when it went on Sunday. You know, so if they don't ever see that happening, it's easy to understand why they would think the need would go unfulfilled.
Well, I totally agree. And just to say random things like, well, we need more people in the Salvation Army. I'm glad you were kind of cornering him. Well, how? How do you know that? Where do you get your info? Just throwing out, flippant statements, just wanting to argue.
Yeah, well, I was trying to catch him in a catch-22 that works sometimes in talk radio. Like, I've had these conversations. Y'all can tell, like 80 different times I've had that call. Yeah. And so what I catch some of them in sometimes is we don't have enough beds or we don't have enough room. And then I can come back with the knowledge of, in every town I've lived in, they've had more empty beds in the homeless shelter than they've had homeless people. Homeless people choose to be homeless. Homeless people, we already have enough great, awesome Christian brothers and sisters that are rising up with not just monetary donations, but time donations, and people who take these sorry little $60,000 a year nonprofit jobs to do God's work. And they have empty beds. That they have them here in Dallas. They had them when I was in Oklahoma. They had it the worst in New Orleans. But it's just hard for some people to gather that Christians really have already risen up and can meet this need. The homeless people just tear it down, because if you go and you sleep in a Christian facility, you can't get all messed up. You can't eat a bag of meth. You can't get all wasted. You can't go sexually harass the people around you. And that's the deal. They don't want to live by anyone else's rules. They want to be junkies, and there's nothing you can do about it. Jesus said these losers are always going to be with us. All right. I think I
agree with you. Keep fighting a good fight, James.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it. Let's see. Steve in Weatherford, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James. What would Jesus do, caller? I mean, his heart was in the right place, but I'm not sure his mind was. I would encourage that caller to drive downtown Dallas and pick up a couple of homeless people, bring them back to where he dwells. He's got a couch, he's got food and air conditioning, and let them stay with himself for the rest of the hot summer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually pretty close to what Jesus would do. Just come on with me, buddy. You look a little ate up, so let me heal your leprosy before I let you in the house real quick. But yeah, if you want to get closest apples to apples, that's probably more like what Jesus would do. But they think this is a catch 22 on the Christians, because what would Jesus do? He would help them. But for them, helping only involves voting for their party who's going to make social programs to help the people. They almost never say they want to directly help people. And you're right, Steve. The guy listening, what he should do is go down to one of the homeless shelters and don't even volunteer your time. Just go look and see the empty beds for yourself. I don't know where it is in your town or in Fort Worth or whatever, but I know the one for here in downtown Dallas is maybe a mile and a half from where I'm sitting right now. There's a whole big facility, and there's two of them. The bigger one is called Our Calling. You can go volunteer. You can go through the orientation, and you can see what they provide: the health care, the food, the hot meals, the beds, the showers, and the services to help them fill out the paperwork for other nonprofits and government programs and whatnot. Go see. But before you condemn Christians as inadequate in being able to recognize this cause, and we have to have social programs, we have to have these giant multi-bazillion-dollar programs to help poor people. Excuse me. We spend over $2 trillion a year in the United States on means-based programs. This helping the poor. Remember how they said when Elon Musk bought Twitter for $47 billion, he could end world hunger with $47 billion. Well, we spend $2 trillion every year on poor people programs. It doesn't get rid of it. It doesn't help. And we still have the unfulfilled need that's being picked up, usually by good-hearted, anonymous Christians who will never get the credit, never get the glory, because it doesn't fit the narrative. But they're all doing God's work, whether it's the Salvation Army, whether it's Our Calling, whether it's the First Baptist Church of Buck Tussle, and everywhere in between. I don't think we trust our society enough. We would do so much better if we put charity back in the hands of where it belongs, and that's the church. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, a bunch of Team Blue people in Texas are crying over this ICE killing. You'll get the details on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I don't think the deportations are happening fast enough. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Before I get to this specific case here in Texas that, if you haven't heard about it already, it's probably going to be bombing your social media feeds over the next 48 hours. Ro Khanna is on doing some interview on CNN or MSNO. I forgot which one it was. I apologize for that. But Ro Khanna, he's one of these multimillionaire Nepo baby Democrats who tells you being rich is evil. One of those guys. He's also crying about the 10,000 detentions ICE did last month. 10,000. This guy's crying over 10,000. I see 10,000 as an abject failure. If we're doing 10,000 a month, that is 120,000 a year. We're going to get 480,000 out of the 4 years of Trump here. So not even 500,000 out of just the 11 million that Biden had let in the 10 years before that. Out of the maybe 20 million illegal immigrants that we have here, we're only going to get rid of 500,000. And Ro Khanna sees that as some great travesty of justice. Well, we're going too fast. How does this make sense?
ICE has increased detentions from 1,000 a day to 2,000 a day. Just last week, there were over 10,000 detentions. Now, I know ICE hasn't been as much in the news lately. After the Alex Preddy killing and the Renee Good killing and the siege in Minneapolis and Los Angeles, many people were outraged at ICE. But we cannot ignore their continued abuse. These people being detained are being denied basic human rights. I was at the California City Detention Center. I saw someone with blood in his urine who was denied medical care. I saw rocks in the food. I saw people shivering because they didn't have clothes. We need to abolish ICE and replace it. We need to stop funding ICE that's violating human rights.
That was so not moving. I think that was supposed to be like an emotional push. Like I saw people not getting denied medical care. I saw people shivering from the cold. They had rocks in their food. First off, not true. Rocks in their food? Shut up. That's not even believable. Who would do that? It's not like you can accidentally get rocks in their food. So what do we have? A rock saboteur that is like, screw this bologna sandwich. I want to put some river pebbles in it. Does that even make sense? And here's what you do. If we do have a problem enforcing the law and people are putting rocks in the food, my solution is take the rocks out, right? We don't stop enforcing the law. We don't make our border like an open sewer, just ollie oxen free. Anyone who wants to come in, doesn't matter how many people you want to rape or kill or maim or stab on a subway or set on fire, you're not going to get sent home. 10,000 is too much. 10,000 is a scary low number. Are you kidding? It needs to be 100,000 a month. You know, we really only have about 2 more years of actually enforcing the border before things might flip, go back to Team Blue, and the border's wide open again. And what are they going to do? Let in 11 million more? And we only got 500,000 out? This is losing numbers we're doing here. So no, I am not shocked or outraged or think we need to slow it down. We need to mash the gas. Now we go to a more specific Texas story where ICE is in the news. And it got political. There was another person who died while ICE was trying to detain them. At any point in the story, do they admit that the guy's here illegally? Do they call him an illegal immigrant? Do they say he's here illegally? At the very end, they're going to tag on. He was on the path to getting his legal status. Okay, so you're saying he was illegal? But they tell this from the point of view of the illegal immigrant, of the criminal that law enforcement is supposed to be getting. Then they go talk to a member of his family after he dies. And of course, this is all 100% sympathetic toward the criminal, the foreigner who's also a criminal, who's not supposed to be here, who's a criminal. Did they go talk to a family member of one of the ICE agents that was in the violent situation? No, they did not. Anyway, here's the wildly one-sided report.
An ICE agent fatally shot a man in Houston, and now his family, immigration advocates, and several Democrats are calling for an independent investigation. Video shows what happened after agents opened fire on Lorenzo Salgado Araujo Tuesday morning. Authorities say he was here in the U.S. illegally, and they pulled him over as part of a targeted enforcement operation. Agents say Araujo rammed an ICE vehicle and tried to hit them, and only then did they open fire. Araujo's son had to learn what happened through social media.
I recognized him immediately. Not from his appearance, but from his voice, crying for help as he lay on the street, bleeding out.
Ronaldo Salgado claims that his father had been living in the U.S. for more than 30 years and was on the path to obtaining a work permit.
Yes. So they don't call him an illegal immigrant. They do admit that he was here illegally 20 seconds into the story. And then they also admitted that he tried to ram and kill an ICE agent 30 seconds into the story, where you know damn well if it fit the narrative, those two pieces of information should have been in the headline. The headline should have been illegal immigrant dies after ramming ICE agent, or illegal immigrant neutralized after trying to kill an ICE agent. Just trash reporting. We're used to it, though. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I told you the story about some flock cameras in Texas. They're growing. There's thousands of them now. And some vigilantes in Houston were cutting them down. Well, last night, after I told you the story on the James Show, last night, more were cut down. I have the legal analyst of the James Show, Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com, to talk about the constitutional boundaries here on flock cameras and your rights. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. What the flock is going on with these cameras? See what I did there? I know. You don't have to dump that. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Got Garrett hovering over the dump button there. But no, it's a serious issue because flock cameras are seen by many of your fellow Texans as a violation of your rights. And okay, I understand that. Government surveilling you. Well, some fellow Texans in Houston have taken matters into their own hands. In fact, they've been cutting them down, which this is kind of cool. Also kind of like, I disagree with flock cameras, but buddy, this does sound a little bit illegal what you're doing. This is from ABC 13.
Camera has been cut down, completely sprayed over with an American flag on it. And not far away, there's another flock camera on the ground as well. HPD says it's investigating this, but so far, there are more questions than answers. These cameras, meant to help solve crimes, now becoming the target of one, both cut in half and covered in spray paint.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the cameras were there until you actually pointed that out.
Juan Rodriguez's business.
All right, that's enough of that. Let's get to my legal analyst on the James Show. It's the great Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com. Now, where do we draw the line here? Because on one hand, unreasonable search and seizures, government's going to be able to log your whereabouts and your goings from point A to point B. On the other hand, you have no real expectation of privacy if you're in the public sphere. Jeremy Rosenthal, where do you draw the line? So I like the idea of them collecting it, but needing a warrant to access the information. But how does that work? Does that mean we have a private sector contractor that really owns and operates the flock cameras and the government just has to come calling? Isn't that what they're doing now? Because the company's called Flock, if I remember correctly. All right, we're talking with Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com. Now, this situation we have with the flock cameras reading your license plates in Texas, was that in any way affected by the Supreme Court decision announced last week having to do with geofencing? Because it sounds like there's some overlap, no pun intended. So where do you think we're going to be with flock cameras in years to come? Are we stuck with these things, or are they going to be curtailed? All right, we got a question here. David in San Francisco, you're on the James Show with Jeremy Rosenthal.
Oh, thanks, James and Jeremy. You know, it's funny. I got to correct your guest. He said that if these photographs are taken, the police can always deal with it. Well, out here in San Francisco, there was a case that made it all the way up to the Supreme Court, where a guy was getting beat up right in front of the police. He was witnessing it 5 feet away. The cop did nothing while this guy got beat up by a whole bunch of, it was a sports fight right outside of a stadium. And the police claimed that they had no duty to care. Their responsibility is one thing, but protecting people getting beat up right in front of them is not their responsibility.
Wait, that sounds familiar. Rosenthal, you know that case?
I don't hear him. I
Hang on a second.
Dead air.
Yeah, he can't hear you. Go ahead and finish your question. No, he can't. Go ahead and finish your question, Dave.
Well, the other thing regarding the flock cameras, you know, the Republicans for years have been talking about new bureaucracies. Liberals always want new bureaucracies. These flock cameras are new bureaucracies. They're giving it over to Peter Thiel and what's that big company that's
Palantir.
all of our Palantir, right. So they're giving not only a new bureaucracy, but a robot bureaucracy, all of our tax dollars. And there's a kind of a jujitsu I flashed on that maybe we could deal with this. When you start looking at the idea of capturing all of this data, and if you remember, in the very beginning of Trump's second term, DOJ got into the Treasury and captured all of our Social Security data. Say you're driving down the street and one of these flock cameras catches you at one intersection and then 2 hours later at another intersection. But in the meantime, somebody's hacking your bank account. So it couldn't be you that hacked your own bank account. It was somebody stole it. So if Doge, Elon Musk.
David, I got like 30 seconds. Speed it up.
Well, if Elon Musk and his hackers start stealing your bank account because they've got your Social Security number, maybe the data that's in the flock cameras is going to protect your rights to your own money.
Gotcha. All right. Hang on. Jeremy Rosenthal, I have another question for you, and I'll let you respond to that call from David in San Francisco. Just hang on about 6 minutes. We'll continue with Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com. We're talking about flock cameras. Where do flock cameras end and your rights begin? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, are you in pain right now? fellow Texans, is there something in your body that is hurting that is preventing you from enjoying your summer to the fullest? Did you go to the lake last weekend and you didn't want to get out on that couch, that big floating couch that they pull around behind the boat because your back's been bothering you? Look, stop shorting yourself. At least find out if QC Kinetics can help you. It can't help everybody, but if it can help you, then you can go in, you can get the treatments, and you can go live life to the fullest this summer. And it works that fast. You don't have to schedule an appointment for 6 months from now, and then they prep you, and then you've got to go under the knife, and they put you to sleep, and you wake up the next day, and you're in the embarrassing robe with your butt exposed, and you got to miss a week's worth of work. No. QC Kinetics, you go in for the free consultation. They find out if they can help you. They tell you what we can do, and then we do it. And it only lasts, seriously, when I was in there last, I was in and out in less than 30 minutes. No downtime, no drugs, no surgery. You don't have to miss work. Find out if it's right for you. 972-972-8610. 972-972-8610. Well, what's going on with flock cameras? I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We're continuing with our guest, Jeremy Rosenthal. He's a legal analyst of The James Show. He's from TexasDefenseFirm.com, kind of talking about where your rights begin and the flock cameras end. And first, Jeremy Rosenthal, your response to that last caller who was drawing up his thoughts on the whole flock camera situation. Well, Jeremy Rosenthal, I feel like we already lost this ideological battleground with the red light cameras and the speed cameras. They seem to be the sort of what do you say, the nose under the camel's nose under the tent, or whatever it is, to this whole issue. And because we gave that up, we don't have a leg to stand on if you want to fight these on some sort of constitutional ground. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. Wouldn't the answer to that be whoever owns the camera? Interesting. All right. Well, Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. I think you and I both agree that the anti-flock camera vigilantes that are chopping them down and spray painting them and putting a flag on them, your heart might be in the right place, but that is illegal, and we do not condone that behavior. Well, that's kind of a good point there. Look, I thought I'm trying to just sort of spitball this new paradigm that we're all living under of heavy surveillance, because one of the things the flock cameras relies on is your license plate. Now, you can't get away from facial recognition cameras unless you just want to hide your face. But what would you think about this, Jeremy Rosenthal? We're so good at keeping track of people and finding out where they are, and we have so many data points that maybe we just don't need license plates anymore. Is that too libertarian for you? Exactly. No, and that's why, and that's kind of my point. I think it's obsolete. They'll figure it out. They'll catch us. They'll see my car and they'll be able to differentiate it because my wife has a Bucky sticker on her left window, and you can see in this other camera this has got a Bucky sticker. They'll use something else, but I don't know. I'm just trying to. If we're going to be losing rights in some other ways, I would like to regain that, offset that with an expansion of freedoms in some other aspect. But I'll work on that. I'll try and make it a little more palatable. Jeremy Rosenthal, thanks for your time, bud. That's Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. And I have seen him cheating on me. I saw him on, I think it was Newsmax not too long ago. Cheater. Coming up next, we have another citizen journalist. His name is Alex McDonald. He is going to come on the James Show because he did a report on a data center, one of these big, evil new data centers right outside of Rockdale. And you won't believe how loud it is. So Alex McDonald from This Week in Rockdale coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, Texas homeowners. If you are getting sick of looking at your tired, old, busted, run-down house and you're thinking, maybe I just need to upgrade, maybe I just need to move. No, you don't want to move. You got a nice little 3% mortgage. You like your neighborhood. You like your neighbors. You just really need to get Rhino Shield, and it'll look like a brand new home. James Parker here for Rhino Shield. Plus, it does things that your nappy old paint can't do. If you have paint all over your house right now, it's not saving you energy. It doesn't have a 6.9 R factor. It doesn't block UV sun rays like Rhino Shield does. Even if your house is covered with bricks, Rhino Shield can make them look brand new. And some people, when they see your bricks and they see what color they are, they can tell how old your house is. You can make it, just reset the clock on your house. You don't have to move. You don't have to buy a whole new house. You really just want Rhino Shield. So go to rhinoshielddfw.com. Ask them about the 25-year transferable warranty. Ask about how if you can't afford to come up with the money all right now, you can put it on a low monthly payment. Really, there's no excuse. Go to rhinoshielddfw.com. All right, let's talk about data centers in Texas. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820. Oh, no, that's what happens every time. It becomes bloody battle. It's like the battle of Sterling from Braveheart when we talk about data centers on the James Show. And I do not know where this come from. I find great joy in the irony of seeing me put up some segment about data centers, and I'll share it out on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or all the things. And people will, in the comment section under a data center segment, say, we need to stop all these data centers. It's like, you're doing this on social media. You can't realize the irony of that. It's like, we need to stop oil. Well, what do you want to replace it with? I don't know, plastic. But here's the latest. WFAA has a report on some data centers being debated here locally.
Fort Worth Zoning Commission just voted against the city's proposed data center specific zoning regulations. They would have established new standards for data center development, limiting where they could be built and requiring setbacks from neighborhoods, as well as new rules for noise mitigation, landscaping requirements, and a ban on cryptocurrency mining. But dozens of residents urge commissioners to reject those changes, saying they don't go far enough.
I would encourage the city to give itself the gift of time to pause the process, develop the pertinent zoning regulations that adequately serve the citizens of Fort Worth.
The Zoning Commission's vote is only a recommendation. It doesn't stop it. The Fort Worth City Council will consider these data center regulations next month as part of a broader policy package.
All right, now behind the scenes, I get tore up from the floor up every time I say something nice about data centers, and people saying you don't understand, or you need to do your homework, or we're going to run out of water, or we're going to run out of electricity, or it's going to make a whole lot of noise. And listen, I'm not saying dismiss any issues that come up with data centers. I'm saying we still need to build the data centers, and then we need to go mitigate these issues. You're bringing up valid points. We probably need to increase our electricity generation. We probably need to increase our water supply. We probably need to do a lot of things to accommodate them, but we need to accommodate them, not shut them down. Well, my next guest is from an outfit called This Week in Rockdale, which Rockdale is a little bit northeast of Austin, over there by right next to Milano. Yeah, if you don't know where Rockdale is, you're not going to know Milano either. But he did a great report. His name's Alex McDonald, and I saw this yesterday on Facebook. He's outside of a data center by Rockdale, and you can see it in the background. It's pretty big.
I know a lot of you are concerned about data centers. You've all seen that video that's going around on Facebook of the data center humming away like a jet engine. What a lot of you may not realize is that we have a data center that's up and running and operational right here in Rockdale. There it is. And if you listen very carefully, you'll hear absolutely nothing other than the sheriff's office shooting range, by the way, but you'll hear nothing from the data center. And that's because, like every technology, the technology that drives data centers has evolved. And this isn't a data center from 10, 20, 30 years ago, like the one in the Facebook video. This is a new one, which is why if you come out here for yourself, you're going to see, and more importantly, hear that you're being manipulated. You're being lied to by very well-funded organizations that are ideologically aligned with America's enemies to try to make sure that America loses the AI race.
Perfect report. Perfect. All right, now, did a little digging, found the hero behind that report. Alex McDonald coming on the James Show from This Week in Rockdale. First off, thank you very much for doing that report. What made you go out and show the world the truth about data centers? Oh my goodness. Well, there's the rock, because my grandfather used to live right outside of Rockdale, and so I just assumed it was that one. Yeah, I'm geographically wrong, just not wrong on data centers. Okay. Right. Yeah. All right, let me continue with Alex McDonald. We're going to step aside for a quick break here, but I want to ask you about where this criticism is coming from, because that's one of the things that I've been scratching my head about so much, Alex McDonald, is the fact that there are so many people out there who have it right. They have their economics just squared away in all other aspects of life, but somehow they lost their mind on data centers. And they lost their mind, like in Texas, we have 621 data centers already. Somehow the data center number 622 is being protested, but the first 600, not a peep. So we'll continue with Alex McDonald from This Week in Rockdale on where is this data center opposition coming from. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. All right, so where did this data center opposition come from? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And the question comes because we have 621 data centers in the state of Texas already, and now all of a sudden they're being protested. New data centers are being protested. If they're so damn bad, why weren't they protested for the first 100, second 100, third 100, fourth 100, fifth 100? We had 621 built without protests, but now all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe they're bad. Where is this coming from? Well, you heard Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank say on CNBC that some of the data center opposition to his project in Utah, when they trace back the money, it goes to various nonprofits, and they all have some sort of link back to China. And that makes sense. China doesn't want us to get ahead in the data center race. China doesn't want us to be ahead in the AI race. Anything we can do to slow down our own progress is good for them. And so I don't think all these people know that they're doing the bidding of China, but they are somehow ideologically aligned now when it comes to data centers with not just the Chinese Communist Party, but also Bernie Sanders and AOC, people they normally would recognize as having abhorrent economics.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I understand what is at stake. That is why today we are announcing legislation to impose a moratorium on the construction of new AI data centers.
Okay, so now we're continuing with my guest, Alex McDonald, from This Week in Rockdale. And you actually did a piece on data centers, like a whole series researching it. Did you find out anything interesting about where this newfound opposition to data centers is coming from? Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? They seem to have been really effective because there was no outcry. Like I've said, there was no outcry on the first 620 data centers built in Texas, but all of a sudden this year, people started opposing them. And so that tells me someone was acted upon by an outside force. So I'm not surprised that it happened. I'm just surprised how effective it has been. Well, and part of that from my point of view is a lot of envy and jealousy on my part because I can barely get these people to listen to the James Show, you know? All right, thank you very much. This is Alex McDonald doing some great work exposing the truth on data centers from This Week in Rockdale. Nice to meet you, Alex. Thanks for the great work. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear some people apologizing for a rapist Nazi. That's not hyperbole. And then the rapist Nazi actually drops out of the race. We'll make fun of both of it next, coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Look, I'm not saying you should vote for a racist Nazi. I'm questioning the timing of the condemnation of Plattner now. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And this was a guy before the primary happened last month for the Democrat Senate candidate out of Maine. We knew that he had sexual assault allegations. It had been written up in the New York Times. There's a lady who's been outspoken about it. She was dismissed because, well, she's a Republican, or she, for political reasons, whatever. And, I'm not, you've never heard me say a candidate should be dismissed because they cheated on their wife, but assault's a little bit different. However, this has been an election cycle for the last, 10, 12 years or so, where that's just been thrown at everybody. So it kind of means nothing these days. And also, it kind of should mean nothing. You really should just vote on a guy based on his politics, and a guy who's a free market capitalist who can't keep it in his pants is probably going to be a better leader than an avowed socialist who can practice fidelity. But I think the real problem that we're all scratching our head is that the Nazi tattoo, that wasn't a deal breaker. So for some reason, a new accusation came out last weekend, and now all of a sudden a bunch of people have changed their mind and called for him to drop out of the race and on Team Blue. And I get it. You don't like what he did, but you didn't know this before the primary. We all knew it before the primary. Why now? Well, you know why now. He was losing in the polls. And so if he's going to lose anyway, they might as well jettison him and try something else, because now they have nothing to lose. Similar playbook as to what they did with Joe Biden in 2024. They knew he was a flawed candidate. They knew he was just shuffling around, licking windows when nobody's looking. And then when they found out he was going to lose, they changed their mind. They're going to jettison the entire Democrat process, and they're going to install a different candidate. I don't think it's going to work. But Plattner has now officially dropped out.
Hey everyone, it's Graham Plattner here. I think as many of you know, over the past couple days, I have faced some very serious allegations, and I just want to make it clear, this is all false. The things that have been claimed did not happen.
Then why are you dropping out? If it's false, why drop out? If it's false, why don't you go out there and say, these ladies are lying? They're trying to subvert the will of the Mainers. Isn't that what they're called up there in Maine? That's not what he's saying. And I don't know what the truth is here. I just find I'm disgusted at this whole process is because he has to drop out because of the sexual assault allegations, and not for being a Nazi. Being a Nazi wasn't a deal breaker. That's what I find most confounding about this. Let me continue with Plattner's statement a little bit.
It's not real. It has placed an immense amount of weight on me as I think about what needs to happen now.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of feel sorry for the guy in the fact that they all knew this about him and they didn't make him drop out a month ago, and now they're making him drop out. I don't know. It's not that I feel sorry for the Nazi here. It's just, I don't know. This is a weird situation. Brian in Frisco, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Yeah, James, I was just curious, what's the difference between Plattner's case, calling him a rapist, and the women coming forward, and what happened to Trump over the last, 2 terms? You got women coming out, and he's losing lawsuits in the Supreme Court about that he, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me.
No, I'll give you an honest answer here, Brian, because you sound like you're asking out of good faith. So the closest credible accusation we have against Trump as far as sexual assault goes, not cheating on his wife. He's cheated on all 3 of his wives. Hell, Ken Paxton's cheated on all his wives. Bill Clinton's cheated on all his wives. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. So the only thing that really matters in that domain could be sexual assault. Now, in the Donald Trump case, it's E. Jean Carroll. That's the one where there's been a judgment ruled against him in a civil case for defamation. And so people was like, well, they've adjudicated that he raped her. Well, it's a civil case, and it's not like he was found guilty of a jury of his peers for the actual rape. It's just in the defamation case, if the assumption was made that there was untoward sexual contact, that the statements made afterwards in the public sphere count as, I don't know, defamatory or slander, or libel, or whatever it was.
Okay.
So the problem I have in that, and I looked into it, is, do you know what year the E. Jean Carroll case was?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, she doesn't either. So it's like the Brett Kavanaugh thing. We don't know when it happened. We don't know where it happened. There's no witnesses. She can't prove that she told any of her close friends or her therapist or whatever immediately after it happened. There was no police report. So the E. Jean Carroll one, it was like the Brett Kavanaugh one. Someone comes out and they tell a story. They don't give you enough details that it could even be proven nor disproven. And so that's a little bit different than what came out with the Graham Plattner stuff, because the lady that came out this weekend with the story, she's like, yeah, I have text messages with my close friends. I have text messages with my therapist. I have all kinds of information and corroborating evidence. The ugly part is there was another woman named Lauren from a couple months ago. She got written up in the New York Times who had all that evidence, but the New York Times buried the evidence. They contacted a couple of people, said no one could corroborate this, but they didn't call the people that she said were witnesses. Not that they saw it happen, but she told them right afterwards.
Right.
And so there was sort of a cover story even for the New York Times. The thing that has me pulling my hair out is this is the deal breaker and not the Nazi tattoo. What is wrong with people? So there is a little bit of difference, but for some people who already have Trump derangement syndrome and they think he's a pedophile, rapist, Nazi or whatever, they're not going to listen to reason. I appreciate you listening to it, Brian. What else?
Yeah, no, that's it. Because I deal with a daughter who is like so anti-Trump, and he did it. He created.
How did you let her get to that point, Brian? How did you raise a kid like
she's
that?
Out of the house. She's older, but yeah. So I don't know.
I'm indoctrinating the hell out of my kids. The first thing I told my kids, they're 4 years old. They barely know the difference between chocolate and vanilla. I'm over here telling them capitalism is better than socialism. Got it? Don't never talk to strangers. Don't touch a hot stove. Capitalism is better than socialism. Everything else will fall into place after that.
Yeah. Well, she's 30 now, so she's moved on past her influence of her parents.
Ooh.
And but
that's scary. Well,
it is what it is.
All right. Well, thanks for asking, Brian. I appreciate that.
James.
Because
Yep.
and Brian's perfect to ask that question because Scott Jennings was faced with that same thing on CNN last night. He's sitting at a table with 4 other people who disagree with him. They're like, "Well, what's the difference between Trump's rape and Plattner's rapes?"
Significant more weight behind accusations against Donald Trump than there even is against Graham Plattner. How can one be disqualifying but not both?
Well, the president would say there isn't serious corroboration on these accusations.
There's a judgment.
That's what he would
There's
argue.
a judgment by a jury, a federal jury.
Yeah, and the person who accused him couldn't even remember when it happened.
Well, okay, that's up to the jury.
That's the argument. That's the argument.
That's the jury.
At the same time, Trump identified the person who accused him as his ex-wife in those proceedings. But what do you say? I mean, you said what Trump would say. What would you say to the question that Brad had?
Look, my view is this: if there is serious allegations, if there's serious evidence or corroboration, everybody has to take responsibility.
To Brad's point, those are serious allegations.
Okay,
And those are serious allegations. And then if you add to the look, I don't want to. It's not a. I think it is just a fair question that if you're going to be throwing the book at Graham Plattner, not just about what the women have accused him of, but also about his own statements about women and rape, then you should at the very least have a look at Donald Trump. He's on video saying that he could grab women by their genitals.
Right? Yeah, that's the same as raping them. Boy, that's so cringy. Don't you love watching them defend the rapist Nazi? Hilarious stuff. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show. Go find all my hilarious videos on social media. Stick around. The great one, Mark Levin, is coming up next. This has been the James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.